Good morning, everyone, on my behalf as well. Thank you very much to the organizers for the kind invite. I hope you do not mind that I will. I hope that you do not mind that I will deliver my presentation in English. So it's my privilege to be among exceptional speakers in the field of energy and deliver my presentation, which bears the title, First Steps Towards the Establishment of a Hydrogen Economy in Greece. I will actually not exclusively focus in Greece. I would rather approach our country as a key player in the wider Balkan region, and I will highlight also the importance of our country, even for the Central Europe. But before doing so, if you may allow me to spend a few minutes on introducing ourselves. I'm here representing a group of 40 experts. All of us comprise the energy department of Grand Thornton, Greece. We are based in Athens, and I must say that 9 out of 10 of us have an engineering background. We deliver a vast array of services to our clients, and all of our services are linked to different pillars of the energy sector. More specifically, we specialize in the electricity, in natural gas, renewable and low carbon gases. This is actually where I sit, in analytics, in the public sector, and also in sustainability. Hydrogen has gained a lot of importance during the recent years, and it has become actually a controversial topic in many debates. The role of hydrogen in decarbonizing the future is indispensable. Nevertheless, it comes along with significant challenges. For example, think of the fact that nowadays we are just 5.5 years before a major milestone regarding hydrogen in Europe, and we do not have large-scale hydrogen-dedicated infrastructure. It has been voiced in general, but also earlier in this conference, that the hydrogen blending is an option, and I second that. It is indeed a very important tool, especially for the first years for the establishment and development of the hydrogen economy. But nevertheless, this as well comes at a cost, and it should be deployed in a very prudent manner. This has been acknowledged by the gas TSOs, and all of them are already busy in testing the networks and see their comparability with hydrogen blends at different levels. And we also heard by Désspοινα that their network is able to accommodate up to 8% of hydrogen blend. Now, by 2030, Europe is not only expected to produce 10 million tons of hydrogen, but it's also expected to import equivalent amounts of it from outside Europe. This hydrogen will reach us not only via dedicated pipelines, but also through the implementation and deployment of other types of infrastructure, for example, the LNG terminals. And this is, as you can understand, particularly important for our country. So it is of utmost importance that technical and economic assessments need to be done and concluded in order to assess the comparability of LNG infrastructure terminals for hydrogen carriers such as methanol and ammonia. In our group, we have performed a modeling analysis, a modeling exercise, in order to predict future hydrogen flows. And I will actually give you a flavor of the results, but before doing so, I would like to walk you through a number of important assumptions made for the model. Plexus is a demand-driven model. That means that national demand in hydrogen is being fed as input, and then the model optimizes the hydrogen flows in a way that the demand is being served. Demand can be served either via imports of hydrogen or via local production or via a combination of both. So out of our pan-European model, we have selected a handful of countries, and obviously Greece is among those. The rest of the countries are listed on the slide. For the model assumes hydrogen demand to be zero for those countries where no hydrogen demand targets have been explicitly reported. And when I refer to hydrogen, bear in mind that I refer to renewable hydrogen. So we treat the hydrogen targets as being targets for renewable hydrogen. And we also assume that the hydrogen demand stems from the industry and the transport sector, which is in complete coherence with what Europe stipulates. I mentioned a bit earlier that the demand can be served also via local production. That means that the model is able to optimize the location and the size of the electrolyzers that are needed. And it treats the electrolyzers as an additional electrical load, and at the same time, the additionality criterion stipulated by the Delegated Act is respected. Another means of meeting the demand is importing hydrogen or exporting hydrogen, but that necessitates adequate transmission infrastructure. And therefore, as a bare minimum, the model adopts and assumes the hydrogen transmission PCI projects that have been recently approved by the Commission. And beyond those projects, and on top of that, if rendered necessary, the model is free to deploy additional transmission infrastructure from a predetermined list of candidate projects. And there's no distinction between repurposing of existing natural gas pipeline networks and new dedicated pipelines. I already mentioned that it's a demand-driven exercise, so we have mapped the hydrogen demand at national level, and for that we took into consideration only official strategic documents from the individual countries, be it the NSCPs or the national hydrogen strategies, in the case countries have such documents, of course. And if the demand is not reported in a disaggregated manner, then we assume that the demand stems from the industry and the transport sector, as I just mentioned. And out of the whole demand for hydrogen in Germany that is expected to be served via imports, we assume that 40% of this is served exclusively originates exclusively from the southeastern Europe. So in general, we are able to map the consolidated, so to say, demand for the whole region we modeled per year. And you can see that there is a 15% increase in this demand from, let's say, one phase to another. I mentioned a bit earlier the hydrogen PCI projects that have been taken as a prerequisite, so to say, for the model. And those projects I illustrate here on the slide. So I'm talking about the hydrogen corridor that connects Italy, Austria, and Germany. This actually means 5 projects, 1 in Italy, 2 in Austria, and 1 in Germany. Of course, we have the very well known to us hydrogen interconnector between Greece and Bulgaria. This consists of the project promoted by Désspοινα and also the mirroring project, so to say, in a neighboring country, Bulgaria. And also we have the generic corridor that aspires to bring hydrogen from Ukraine all over to Germany via Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Austria. That brings me to the slide where we discuss a bit the results from this modeling exercise. Let's first focus on the time frame from 2035 to 2040. The approved hydrogen PCI projects I just mentioned are deemed to be sufficient to accommodate the necessary cross-border hydrogen flows and till 2035, actually. And here I would like to remind you that those projects are expected to become operational in 2030. What we call vertical Balkan corridor that starts from Greece is expected to expand further in 2034 by the incorporation and inclusion of the section from Bulgaria to Romania. Germany represents the major demand center for hydrogen. So one could say that all flows lead to Germany, similar to the saying of all roads lead to Rome. So flows here reach Germany not only via the Italian corridor, but also through Hungary and Austria via the vertical Balkan corridor. This is also why Greece becomes very important in this case. So I mentioned that we foresee the completion and inclusion of the section from Bulgaria to Romania as part of the vertical Balkan corridor, which indisputably will lead to considerable flows, even in the order of 14 terawatt hours in the period examined here. And obviously, this will increase the exports of hydrogen coming from Greece to Bulgaria, and that is expected to reach the value of 9 terawatt hours. At the same time, as you can understand, and together with the fact that Greece will still need to satisfy its own demand, that will most probably dictate the installing of an overall electrolyzer capacity in the order of 3 gigawatt by 2035. So we take one step down the timeline. We reach now the time frame from 2040 to 2045. Here the situation slightly changes. What I mean by that is that beyond 2040, Italy's demand is increasing rapidly, and therefore the flows from Italy to the further to the north start to gradually weaken. More explicitly, by 2044, very little exports are observed from Italy to Austria. That actually corresponds to a drop of more than 60%. Instead, by 2045, Italy imports from the African continent are more than 30 terawatt hours, but the country nevertheless also needs to domestically produce hydrogen. And so far, Germany's demand was accommodated primarily through the hydrogen corridor, including Italy, and also through the vertical Balkan corridor. But now the generic corridor comes more into play, and at the same time, the flows from Greece are enhanced. So they become more prominent, and as we expect, this will lead to an increase in the installed electrolyzer capacity as well in our country. So that brings me to the last slide of the presentation, where we have summarized a few recommendations for the Greek market. We know that the updated NSCP is currently in the making and about to be finalized. It is very important that it bears clear targets for the development and integration of hydrogen, and especially that it considers the fact that Greece will play a prominent role as an exporter of hydrogen for the wider region. And that needs to be reflected in the modeling and in the numbers. The promotion of integrated sector planning is important. In other words, the gas, electricity, and hydrogen networks need to be planned in tandem. Otherwise, synergies will not be achieved, and we will have a high risk of stranded assets. The location of electrolyzers should be also optimized in the sense that proximity to renewable energy generating assets needs to be thought of, as well as the water availability. Transposition of RED III and the hydrogen and decarbonized gas market package are essential. This will, among other things, simplify the licensing processes for hydrogen plants and speed up their implementation, their establishment, actually. The National Regulatory Authority also needs to get prepared because they will have to assume a role bigger than the one that they have today. Stronger national support and de-risking is needed, and I'm sure that all developers in this room will agree with this statement. This support can take different versions, can be of different types, such as investment grants, operating aid. We heard several of them before. And especially for Greece, it is important that we utilize existing funds, such as the Repower and the Modernization Fund. The deployment of electrolyzers dictates for a priority when it comes to hydrogen-related RES plants, given the fact that there are constraints on available electrical capacity. The identification of production and consumption centers needs to be a dynamic exercise that needs to be repeated and therefore continuously monitored, because this will narrow down and minimize the uncertainties considering the timing for deploying the cross-border infrastructure. And as soon as we have officially the hydrogen network operator in Greece, this entity should initiate market tests with adjacent counterparts in order to verify the commercial interest and be able to promote those projects that are indeed flagship and needed for the country. That's it. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the time.